Ohio State has found its next defensive coordinator. We're going to break it all down. I'm Spencer Holbrook for Lettermen Row. Matt Patricia, the next defensive coordinator at Ohio State, Super Bowl champion. Matt Patricia, former Detroit Lions head coach Matt Patricia, 3 years there in Detroit. We're going to break down his resume. We're going to talk about what this means. It's not going to be too long. We'll go 10 to 15 minutes here, but I wanted to get on a video and break it all down for you guys. Ohio State is adding to its defensive staff. It's going to the NFL to do it. So we go from Jim Knowles to Matt Patricia, longtime New England Patriots assistant Matt Patricia. He won Super Bowls 39, 49, and 51 with head coach Bill Belichick, quarterback Tom Brady, that Patriots dynasty. Not much college experience, if we're being honest. Matt Patricia has been in the NFL almost his entire life. He started his career at Amherst and then at Syracuse, actually on the offensive side of the ball. He became an assistant with the offensive line for the Patriots in 2004 and 2005. Then he became the linebackers coach and safeties coach across 6 seasons and became the defensive coordinator in New England. He was in that post from 2012 to 2017 before he was hired as the Lions head coach in 2018, where he served until 2020. That stint did not go well. We will not sugarcoat it at all. Did not go well with the Lions. He was 13, 29, and 1 as the head coach before he got fired. Of course, the Lions go ahead and hire Dan Campbell, and the rest is kind of history there. Patricia had served in an advisory role for the Patriots in 2021 and 2022 under Bill Belichick before he went to the Eagles as a defensive coach in Philadelphia during the 2023 season. Then took a year off. This season, he was working with Belichick for the 33rd team, making some content, doing some things. It's one of those things where you just almost think of it as a gap year, but for coaches. And Patricia did that, and now he's going to be the defensive coordinator for Ryan Day, Ohio State, and the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. It's an interesting move. There were names that were floated around throughout the entire process. A lot of different avenues that Ryan Day could have went with this. One thing that I continue to go back to with this hire is that Ryan Day made the comment not long ago, last week, when he was talking to Joel Klatt on Joel Klatt's podcast. He said, the good news is we're Ohio State. We have some really good opportunities to hire great people and fit them with some people who are really good young coaches, really good coaches that are rising stars here in the profession, and some guys with great experience. But this was going to be part of the deal. We knew that. I knew that right after the game. So, of course, talking about the national championship win, so you have a plan in place. But we're going to make sure to take our time and find the right guy because it's Ohio State. So you have the opportunity to get the best. Now, I hear the criticisms. I hear what's gone wrong for Patricia. So we'll start there. His defense in Philadelphia, when he started to take over a little bit of that in 2023, was not good. He's had some defenses in New England that were not good. He's had other defenses in New England that were really good. And they were part of that Bill Belichick system that won so many Super Bowls. And people have questioned whether it was Patricia or whether it was Belichick's defense. So you can poke some holes in this hire. I will not sit here and tell anybody that it's the perfect hire for Ryan Day. It's not what Jim Knowles was, where you had a Broyles finalist in 2021 at Oklahoma State, and he was naturally just going to get a better job, and Ohio State was the best place for him. For 3 years, of course, he wins the national championship there. This is kind of I would say it's a risk for Ryan Day. I think he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing in his hires. He's gotten 2 of his 3 defensive coordinator hires right, but he's gotten 1 wrong. And so, this is a huge hire for him. And Patricia's resume does have a few holes in it that are going to need to be plugged. They met on Monday. We do know that Ryan Day and Matt Patricia met on Monday. He was in Columbus. How did that meeting go? Apparently it went well enough where Matt Patricia is now the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. But it took a couple days to come together and things like that. But I'm sure that there were questions that Ryan Day had that needed to be answered by Matt Patricia, and questions that Patricia had that needed to be answered by Ohio State as to how this whole thing was going to work. Because now you've got Tim Walton, who has been elevated to co-defensive coordinator with Matt Patricia. You have Matt Guerrieri, who's been elevated to the passing game coordinator for the defense from the safeties coach. And so, there's some promotions going around for these guys. There's some reshuffling going on here, but the bottom line is this is going to be Matt Patricia's defense. And I think that for some is scary because, again, they look at that Belichick system and they think that it was Belichick's system. And so they don't really like this Matt Patricia hire because how much did he do when he was in New England? There's the other side of that coin where this is a guy who has now been hired by Ryan Day and Bill Belichick. And Belichick liked him enough to hire him multiple times and keep bringing him back and wanting him to be around his players. Ryan Day is now wanting him to be a part of the defensive staff at Ohio State. And so, Ryan Day has, to a certain extent, earned some trust. He's now a national championship winning head coach. I don't know if I would say that this is entirely like a Saban type hire, but it does remind you a little bit of like when Nick Saban hired Steve Sarkisian, who had been like a college coach and had to have his career rehabilitated because of some outside stuff, and then had went to the Atlanta Falcons and then became the Alabama offensive coordinator. I'm not saying that this is like apples to apples, but like Patricia had to do some stepping out of the hole after he was in Detroit because of a bad tenure there. It was not a good tenure for Matt Patricia in Detroit as the head coach. And so now Ryan Day is saying, hey, I believe in you. You're going to be our defensive coordinator. And see if, he's still a young guy. I don't think Matt Patricia is an old guy by any circumstance. So, he could have another career ahead of him. He's only 50. So he's been around forever, but he's only 50. And so he's a guy who still has some upward mobility if he does well with this Ohio State defense. He's got a lot of experience. There are mixed reviews on whether players have liked him in the NFL, whether his style was good for players. The reports from the Detroit tenure, like I said, were not good. And so I think this is the textbook example of a mixed bag. Like, what are you going to get out of this? Well, I think it's what you're going to make of it. And if everything goes well, Ohio State's going to stay near the top of the sport because they have one of the best rosters in the country, especially on the defensive side, led by like Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles. But if this doesn't go well, then Ryan Day will be 2 for 4 on his defensive coordinator hires, which just isn't good enough. And you're going to have to say like, okay, what is he doing wrong in his defensive coordinator evaluations? And so I think this hire is textbook example of the proof will be in the pudding. Again, if Patricia's good, Ohio State will be good. If Patricia is lackluster, Ohio State will suffer from that, and you'll see probably great offenses that might be wasted because of defenses, just like we saw when Kerry Combs was hired as the defensive coordinator and the C.J. Stroud era almost in its entirety. That 1 year basically in 2021 was basically wasted because they had a bad defense and they had a historic offense. So it can go one of two ways. And I've said this on the Lettermen Lounge message board. Go over there right now. You get your first 7 days for $1. It's a hell of a deal. It's just going to be one of those wait and see hires, because right now there are people who say that they like the hire. There's some recruits that say they like the hire. There are some folks who are laughing about the hire and they do not like it at all. And it will just be a wait and see thing here. I don't think there's anything else that can be said. Patricia has a good resume, obviously. He's going to have Super Bowl rings, plural, to take into the homes of recruits, but he's going to have to recruit. And he's never done that before because he hasn't been a defensive coach in college football at any point in his career. And so can he recruit is another big question. Knowles didn't recruit when he was at Ohio State. He just coached ball. Is that Patricia's role, or is he going to be asked to go recruit with his Super Bowl rings and with Ryan Day's national championship ring and put those things together and see if they can get some of the best players in the country to come play for Matt Patricia? But again, it's just going to be a wait and see thing because, again, there are people who do not like this hire. There are people who are okay with this hire, and there are people who are ecstatic with this hire. Whoever is right will tell you that they're right. Whoever is wrong will obviously be able to gloat about that, I guess, even though that's kind of, if you're an Ohio State fan and you say it's going to be a bad hire and it turns out to be a bad hire, like, it's kind of counterintuitive because your favorite team will suffer. But yeah, it's an interesting hire. And when his name first was being floated earlier this week, reached out to some people, talked to Pete Nichols at On 3, kind of odd that it was seeming like it could happen. And now we're here. And so Matt Patricia will be the new defensive coordinator at Ohio State. We'll have full coverage over at lettermenrow.com. Didn't want to keep you guys too long. Just want to get on here and make some quick first thoughts on what the Matt Patricia hire means. And we'll go from here because now Matt Patricia is the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. Matt Guerrieri is the passing game coordinator at Ohio State. And Tim Walton is your new co-defensive coordinator. That is the new staff structure. And the defensive staff is set. They'll have to backfill with some of these assistant defensive line coaches and assistant linebackers coaches and things of that sort. But the entire coaching staff is now set. Ryan Day has made a couple hires on the offensive side, and now the biggest hire on the defensive side, Matt Patricia, the new defensive coordinator. Go to lettermenrow.com for full coverage. We're going to have a lot more to break down about this hire. We'll see you guys over at lettermenrow.com. $1 for your first 7 days. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys over there at lettermenrow.com.